Hello, sweet viewers, and welcome to Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living. On today's show, we are visiting Pixie the Peking duck, who lives happily with her human companions, David Ogilvie and Rebecca Irvine, in Melbourne, Australia. Some time ago, apparently from an injury, the lovely Pixie became afflicted with a bacterial infection in one of her legs that developed into bacterial arthritis. Being in much pain, Pixie was unable to walk or paddle. The story of Pixie's plight and her compassionate companions has made a splash in respected newspapers like Australia's Herald Sun.
She's such a beautiful duck, and she's quite young. She's only 2. She's just such a beautiful personality, though. Putting her down was just not an option.
Pixie's loving carers have been doing all they can to help mend her leg and nurse their precious girl back to health. Thousands of dollars in surgery and veterinary bills are no matter as long as pretty Pixie is well again.
We went to a very good vet, and they actually took a sample from her leg. They actually had to take a little biopsy out and have it tested in a lab to see what the infection actually was. And they found out that of the 15-odd antibiotics that were available, the strain of infection she had would have been resistant to 12 of those antibiotics. The infection did end up disappearing. I think the ongoing problem with her leg meant that we then had to have the surgery to fuse the joint.
So she couldn't walk, she couldn't really do anything with it?
No, it was a bit of a shame.
Her leg, the leg was so painful. She couldn't, for a while there, just before the operation, it was so stressful in the evenings because we'd bring her inside, put her in the tub, and her leg, she couldn't even have the leg touching the ground. It was that painful. So luckily we've been able to get, there's been a surgery option for her.
And how's her progress been so far?
Slower than we'd like, I guess. I mean, it's only been 3 weeks now. She's
swimming again now, which is wonderful. We knew that she wouldn't be allowed to swim for 2 weeks, so that was probably the hardest part. But then when we recently took her down last week to the specialist, they took the stitches out, and as soon as we got home from the vet, we filled up the bath and put her straight in the pool, and she was very happy. So
she loves her swims.
It gives her good hydrotherapy. So of course the recovery process now is very much getting her in the pool as often as we can, getting her to move her joints, and we've noticed the swelling has gone down substantially since she's been able to swim. And so it'll be a process of trying to rebuild the muscles and get her back on her feet.
Wonderful. And is that what we're going to do right now?
Indeed.
We're going to take Pixie for a swim? Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Come, Pixie.
The delightful Pixie is joined by her best friend Daphne in the tub for a swim.
It's very good for her leg because, the actual movement of the muscle, because it's still quite swollen, you can see the joint's quite swollen, so over time a lot of that fluid will drain out, and, it just... When we first got her back from surgery, we were actually meant to do physiotherapy on her. Pixie's such a tame duck. We can actually tip her completely upside down on our lap and cycle her little legs. But after the surgery, because it was major surgery that she had, and we really didn't know whether we were hurting her or not. So at least in the pond, she can actually move it as much as she wants, and she can. What we're going to do over time as well is have the water a little bit shallower. So most of her body weight will be supported by the water, but she can actually start, hopefully, using the leg and actually putting a bit more body weight on it, because at the moment she's really just using it for swimming.
Pixie's quick recovery is thanks in part to the meticulous care of her human companions, as well as the devoted doctors who ensured she received the best possible treatment.
And the specialist who did the surgery on her, what was his reaction? Because I don't think he's operated on a duck before. Is that correct?
No, he operates on dogs and cats. So it was quite amazing actually. Like we were very lucky. He's an amazing surgeon, and we were very lucky that he was able to try it on a duck.
My bird vet, who's an excellent bird vet, Colin Walker, at the Melbourne Bird Clinic, he posted questions regarding Pixie's leg on an internet system, and he had university professors from Queensland refer him to papers overseas where similar operations may have been done. And Charles Kuntz, the vet who actually did the surgery, looked into all those papers. He felt that some of the surgery that had been done wasn't the right sort of surgery for Pixie, so he then ended up just fusing the joint. He thought that was the best option. So it was great that they really did look internationally for a solution.
And is he happy with Pixie's progress?
Yes, he is indeed. Yeah, he is very happy with her progress.
She's really having a lot of fun in there.
She is. Yeah, it's her favourite time of the day and food time.
What sort of food do you feed her?
She's on a vegetarian diet, actually. Both ducks have really been on a vegetarian diet. You know, we're conscious of giving her the protein requirement, so we feed her tempeh. We cut up tempeh for her with corn, and she likes noodles and pasta, and tomatoes, one of their favourite as well. So leafy greens, lettuce, yeah, they do.
Let's take a closer look at Pixie's leg as David explains in detail how the doctors performed the operation.
This was the leg, obviously, that had the surgery done, and it's actually this joint up here, which is the equivalent of like the elbow, I guess. They've put a plate in here, like across that joint. So the plate now takes all of her body weight rather than the joint. So there's no weight on the joint at all anymore. And they've put 3 pins into the bone on the top and 3 on the bottom. And you can see it's quite swollen if you compare it to her other leg, but that will go down in time. The muscles have atrophied as well because she hasn't been walking for quite some time, like quite a few months. So she really needs to build up her muscular strength as well. But yeah, she's like, it's at least now there's no pain.
Only 3 weeks after the operation, and already Pixie is making progress, making her mum and dad proud by standing on her own 2 feet.
We've got to train the tendons, and you see then we do this so she can groom underneath, and I usually support her, but oh, good girl, darling. But over time now she's getting, look at that, proud mummy.
Wow.
You know, she's getting to the point now where she can now stand on her leg and groom underneath herself. But she's not stable, but she's getting better over time. She's getting a lot better. So she needs to dry herself properly, obviously, and then we put her back in her tub and try and repeat that exercise as often as we can to strengthen her leg.
She's looking really clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very clean animals. She's getting better balance, and like she's really coming along well. Even the fact, like before she flapped, when she first got put down on the ground, she flapped her wings. She hasn't been able to do that very much without losing balance. So she's really getting better all the time.
How did you come to adopt Pixie?
We got Pixie at 5 weeks of age. She was bought at about 2 or 3 days old from a market, and you know, like little chicks are so cute, and you know they cheap, and they're like the ducklings are gorgeous to look at, and some teenage boys bought her 5 weeks later. You know, once it's getting a bit bigger and it's no longer as cute and it's pooing everywhere. The parents told the boys that they didn't want her anymore and to get rid of her. And so basically an email was sent around looking for a home. As soon as we got her, actually, she really bonded to us. Like they basically imprint on any sort of person around, and We had her inside at the time, and you'd be doing the dishes and she was on the ground right behind your feet, just sort of wanting to, hang around and be with, like it was so cute. After a while, we obviously wanted a friend for her because they are a flock bird. So, two's not much of a flock, but we did want a friend for her. And then we sort of looked around on the internet and there was Daphne needed a home as well. She was actually a school project. She was about 3 or 4 months old when we got her. And anyway, we brought her home and we didn't actually know how the ducks were going to go when they were introduced together, but it was beautiful, it was gorgeous. Yeah, they got on really well from day one.
Yeah. She's very special to David and I. I've never had ducks before, but the bond that you develop with them is just unbelievable. And I'm sure she thinks that David and I are her parents sort of thing. We never looked after ducks before, had we, love?
No.
So it's been a learning experience, certainly.
But they're pretty low maintenance sort of like creatures, really. Yeah.
So long as you can keep them protected, I think that's the main thing. But look, there's nothing lovelier than just seeing them wander around the yard and just enjoying the space and then laying in the sun and just paddling around and finding water wherever they can and making little mud puddles, and they give us absolutely no end of pleasure. Just watching them is just a delight. Every night the routine when it started to get dark, we'd bring them up on the veranda and have them in their tub, and we'd feed them up there, and then David and I'd go out a couple of times in the evening and give them cuddles out in the tub, and then we'd feed them the supper in their proper bed. Also, I should mention that they seem to like music. I often have some classical music going on in the background for them, and I think they find that comforting too.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So they're pretty good companion animals?
Absolutely.
A lot of personality.
Huge personality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just lovely.
The surgery, Pixie's surgery, how much did it actually cost?
I think it was $2,600 for the surgery.
David and Rebecca estimate that with Pixie's surgery and all other treatment costs, they have spent around $5,000 in total to nurse their darling girl back to health.
But all worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
there was no choice. There was no choice.
No, we've got our girl back and she's in no pain, which is the main thing. And we just now want to make sure she has the best quality of life that we can possibly give her.
David and Rebecca, thank you so much for being such exemplary loving parents to all your beautiful animal companions, especially Pixie. Caring viewers, thank you for joining us today on Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living. Coming up next is Between Master and Disciples, here on Supreme Master Television. May your hearts be filled with joy and laughter.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/VEG.